Yes, this is one of those confessions podcasts. Hello, thank you for downloading another batch of terrible tales from Sinful Radio 2 listeners. This week's concise collection features a clinging cotton wool calamity, the woeful defence of a Euro football decibel dampener, a fragrant fable of a sham Spice Girl, and the sorry story of a fake, filthy word filter. Anyway, here it all comes. Another Drive Time confession. Gather round, everybody. Tonight's is from Laura. Thank you very much indeed, Father Simon. I would like to ask forgiveness for a small act of self-preservation, which I committed a few years ago. I was looking for a change in direction in my career, and I thought I quite fancied the idea of being a masseur. There you go. So instantly, everyone's paying attention. No, I'm just reading.
Okay.
As luck had it, my local college did a night school class that ran for 26 weeks, including practical and theory lessons. Okay. We spent several weeks learning the theory and the boring parts, like health and safety, before being allowed to don our uniforms and get our hands dirty. Well, clean, if you see what I mean. The training was very serious, and at all times we had to act professionally, filling in forms beforehand, asking the right questions, and even learning the art of polite but not too in-depth conversation. We also had to learn how to lay out the table at the side of the bed with various lotions, oils, and towels. After our 10th week, we were allowed to practice on the public. These were usually women who paid the princely sum of £6.50 to have students prod and knead them for half an hour. The £6.50 went to the college, but occasionally the clients would give a few pounds of a tip, which you were allowed to keep. Well, when we were about 2/3 of the way through the course, we learnt one evening that the inspector was coming. This person instilled fear into the staff. She had the ability to decide if we would pass or fail the course regardless of our exam results, which seems a little bit harsh. Anyway, now the other thing that we had to do in order to pass the course was to have massaged several different types of clients. They struggled to get anyone other than women to volunteer as the client, so it was with great honour that I told everybody that my client for the night was a man. This did make me slightly nervous, especially as we had just learnt that the inspector was on her way. When I saw my client, though, I instantly forgot my nerves. He was a gorgeous, hunky, early 30s Aussie with tanned skin and muscles all over.
All over?
However, when I got to the massage bit, my nerves seemed to return, and I touched his golden skin. With a full-body Swedish massage, which is what we were doing, we started with a gentle massage of the face to relax the client.
Going on in the studio.
I just wondered what you were going to say. Touched his what? Golden skin?
Yes. Full-body Swedish massage. Pay attention now. Yes. We started with a gentle massage of the face. I'm not sure is that a very attractive thing?
Got to start somewhere.
Who wants your face massage? In my...
I was warned about this.
In my fumbling, I had put far too much oil. I had put far too much... I'm going to fade you out.
All right.
Your job's on the line here. I'd put far too much oil on my client's face.
Yeah.
I used my hands to push it back up to stop it going on all over the pillow, which I managed to do, but his face started to resemble a basted turkey in the oven. I had to wipe some of it off, which is not a very professional thing to do. I looked around for the tissues that we collected from the cupboard, along with various oils and cotton wool balls and towels, which we carefully laid out in a very specific manner before the start of the session. And believe it or not, I'd forgotten the tissues. Well, just then I heard the voice of the inspector moving from curtain to cubicle to curtain to cubicle, criticising what she saw, punctuated with the occasional tut. It sounded as though the rumours about her were absolutely true. I quickly picked up the cotton wool balls and I dabbed at the Aussie's face, whilst looking over my shoulder at the table to make sure it was laid out in exactly the manner we'd been told. But when I looked back at my client, I was stunned. What I'd failed to notice, while staring into his dreamy eyes, was that he was sporting a fair amount of trendy designer stubble, and the cotton wool had turned this designer stubble into an Aussie version of Father Christmas. The cotton wool was now stuck all over his stubble. I heard the inspector getting closer, and in my panic I dabbed more frantically with the cotton wool, but this only made it worse. The inspector was in the cubicle next to me. My new career was as good as dead. I could either come clean and confess, or just run out and never come back. Well, I scanned the cubicle for something to help me out, and then I spotted a small towel that we had to lay out in a specific manner, but no one ever knew what it was for.
Right.
This is a new technique we have learned, I lied. It's meant to relax your soul as well as your body.
Oh, yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
I'm just going to lay this towel over your face to help you relax. I quickly put the small towel over his face, covering my earlier handiwork with the cotton wool. At that very second, the curtain opened and the inspector came in, followed by our humble tutor. And what's going on here? The inspector pronounced. It's a new technique I'm trying, I said with confidence, to help relax the client and improve their confidence. The inspector looked unimpressed. And does it? She said, as she leant over and spoke to the Aussie. My heart stopped, imagining him removing the towel to answer her question where it would reveal my faux pas. It's very relaxing, he said from under the small towel, and my heart resumed its rhythm.
Was that your Aussie accent?
It was, wasn't it? Yeah, that was the best. Is that all he's going to say? Is that the Aussie's not going to say anything else?
Could he say it again?
Well, that's very inventive of you, the inspector said,
Okay.
who came from Surrey. I've always wondered what those loose towels were for. Anyway, she wandered out, followed by the tutor. Well, I breathed again. I couldn't believe my luck, but still, what to do about the Aussie's face? I tried to wipe it off as I dragged the towel from it, but it just made long, greasy streaks of cotton wool stick to his face. He smiled as I took off the towel. I like what you did there. You've earned yourself a few brownie points.
Great.
Brownie being...
Yes, I said nervously. You're back next. Turn over, please. I thought I'd tell him at the end about his face. Time was moving on and we had to finish on time. The rest of the massage went well. He had a great sense of humour. We chatted easily. It was a shock when...
What?
It was a shock when he turned over to get up and I was reminded of my earlier mishap.
Oh, yes.
He was dressed in a flash. That was great, he said. I feel so much better.
Oh, no.
I was going to have to tell him. I couldn't just bring myself to do it, and then I thought of a plan. My cubicle was at the end of the line, right next door to the fire exit. I could send him out of the back door where he wouldn't pass anybody, and I thought this was going to be very good. He gave me £6.50 plus a £5 tip, which made me feel worse. I opened the fire door exit. You drive straight home and take it easy after the massage, I said. Oh, I don't drive, said my client. I'm on the bus. And with that, he was out of the door. The bus, I hadn't thought of that, and I pictured him sitting there with his smiling bronze face looking like Santa Claus with greasy white cotton dripping off his chin. He looked a bit like a wino, to be honest. In the days after, I had sleepless nights expecting a call to go to the college and explain myself. The next week I was convinced he would turn up, shouting and angry at me for letting him go home on the bus, looking a state. But he didn't turn up. In fact, he never came back again. There's a surprise. He didn't even ring. He didn't even complain. So I need to ask for forgiveness for the Aussie stranger who went home on the bus looking like a cross between Santa and a wino, and who was too nice to even ring the college and complain. But he did have a very nice muscular back, which, of course, is a most important factor.
All the difference.
Laura needs your forgiveness, Sister Rebecca.
I want to find out where they do those courses, because I want to sign up for some £6.50 massages.
Well, this might be in 1965.
That's true. I think that it was very funny, and she was very quick thinking with the old towel.
It was quite good, wasn't it?
She should have just come clean, though. She just said, "Look, I've got cotton wool in your beard. Can I pick it out? Because you'll look a state
No, but
otherwise."
the inspector was there.
I know, but afterwards, I think she definitely should have done afterwards. So I'm not going to forgive.
Can I have that massage where you rest my soul as well as my body? I want one of those. Deadly.
I can't forgive either, really. I'd love to, because it was a lovely story and very, very funny. What a great idea, covering him with the towel so the inspector didn't see it. But she appeared to have plenty enough time to wipe the cotton wool off at a later stage, and he was in a good mood, and he was very jolly, and they got on very well. He would have forgiven her anyway. So I don't know. To let him go off onto the bus looking like that, I find a little bit bizarre, really. So I don't forgive on this occasion. However, Matt may have a different idea.
I'm very much on Laura's side here because, number one, when she comes up with put this towel on, it will relax your soul, and this Aussie doesn't say, that's nonsense, what do you mean by relax my soul? The fact that he doesn't say that, already I'm thinking, right, I'm not in your corner, pal. Also, he leaves a £5 tip on a £6.50 massage. That's just bizarre. I mean, it's not just the amount of... that makes £11.50. How's he got... Why isn't he just leaving, like, £3.50... leave a tenner, there's a £3.50 tip. Leaving £11.50 is just weird.
Because it was a very cheap massage.
So
Yeah,
what I'm going to
bother
say is, this guy's not nice, he's just weird. And for that reason, Laura, you are definitely forgiven.
Brother Louie has sent this one in. Thank you, Brother Louie. He helpfully puts, not my real name. I didn't think it was, but anyway, we appreciate it. And even if it was, we'd have changed it 5 times. We might have changed it so many times, we've ended up actually at your proper name. Dear Father Simon and the Confessional Collective, I seek forgiveness for a crime that I had successfully banished from my memory for a couple of years. However, the excitement surrounding England's opening World Cup game against Italy has brought it all back again. I am now compelled to come clean and seek absolution. It was during the very same fixture in the European Championship 2012 that my crime was committed. Company I work for do repairs and maintenance in pubs and restaurants. And we had a job at a pub to run a power supply for a new widescreen TV ordered especially for this game. To be clear, it was ordered especially for this game. So that's a new widescreen TV ordered especially
Okay,
for
yes,
this
right.
game.
Noted that down.
The electrical manager of my firm, let's call him Bob, had surveyed the works and ordered up all the materials and arranged for an electrician to install the power circuit on the Friday morning so it would be all ready for the England match on the Sunday. This is where my involvement began, as I was on site surveying the heating system on the Thursday morning. Now, I'm a friendly guy. The pub manager was a friendly guy, and it wasn't long before we got chatting. Your company, he says, is billing us for over 20 metres of flex and trunking when there's a socket just 1 metre away. Look. So I did. I looked at the sockets, and sure enough, Bob had clearly marked a spot about 20 metres away and ignored the one closest. Silly old Bob, I thought. All those years of experience and knowledge and doing jobs perfectly well and knowing what you're doing, and then you go and do this. Dear me, Bob. Dear me, Bob. He said, overacting somewhat.
Yeah.
It was but a moment's work to wipe away Bob's markings and mark up the closer socket. Now, I told the manager that the job would be remeasured and he would only pay for what was used. Backs were slapped and off I went on my merry way. Well, the Monday after the match, the office was in uproar. Bob was the butt of many jokes. The jokes centred around whispering or talking quietly. I asked a colleague, he wasn't whispering Bob, but, kind of thing. I asked a colleague what had happened. Apparently, you'll never believe it, but Bob had done a job in a pub that had a noise abatement order due to it being in the middle of a housing estate. Unbelievably, he'd marked up a socket for a new TV that was linked to a decibel meter socket that was reserved for live bands to limit their noise levels. As soon as the noise level went above a particular point, it cuts out. During the game, which had finished 0-0, there hadn't been a great deal to cheer about. However, during the penalty shootout, which ensued, the crowd had warmed up and cheered so loudly that the TV went off. Having tripped the aforementioned decibel meter, that's what it's there for. You can picture the scene. Lots of football fans, a little bit the worse for wear maybe, staring at a huge brand new but blank screen. "There's a TV in the snug!" shouts someone, and suddenly a whole mass of fans draped in face paint and red and white flags storm into the other bar, clambering over tables and chairs and ruining a game of dominoes in their keenness to get a view on the tiniest television in the world. "Oh no, it's fixed again!" came another shout, and then the crowd come all the way back. They beat a hasty retreat from the snug, leaving George and Dougie to pick up their dominoes one more time, only for the big TV to trip one more time because they're making so much noise, and the whole swarm repeat their invasion over the two old guys in the snug bar. Worst of all, there was an incident with an unopened packet of dry roasted nuts, and George and Dougie lost a 6-6. Anyway, Father Simon, I did the only thing that a man could do in this position. I joined in with the mockery of Bob, all the time hoping he would never speak to the pub manager, who would clearly tell him that it was my fault after all for switching the plugs. So, actually, you might like to know, I do not seek forgiveness from Bob because he's left the company, and he had a thick skin anyway, but from the revellers. As even though they should be used to disappointment being England fans, I feel my actions added insult to injury. Lots of love and kind regards from Brother Louie. I'm not sure we need your love, but anyway, thank you very much indeed. Brother Louie, which is, of course, a name of a hot chocolate hit, which I'm inclined to play, but we're not because it's Gregory Porter on next. Anyway, it's a World Cup misdemeanour, and it's a little bit sly, I think, of Brother Louie. What do you think there, Sister?
Well, I think the fans got to see their football anyway, whether it was in the snug or on the TV with the very
well, they must have missed
quiet
some
commentary. I suppose so, but it wasn't a very good match. I remember that match. It wasn't, was it?
It was awful.
Yeah, it was awful, and we lost on penalties, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
Anyway, I actually think it was.
What with you being married to an Italian?
Well, I always remember those games, exactly. I think it was the pub manager's fault, actually, because he should have known that this plug that he was asking the guy to change to was a noise-limiting plug. So it wasn't Brother Louie's fault or Bob's fault, it was the manager's fault. So I'm completely forgiving you, Brother Louie.
Brother Louie were a band as well. Anyway, never mind. Let's see what Brother Matthew
Brother
makes
Louie
of...
references. I've never heard of one of these noise abatement. I didn't really realise that even existed, where you could have something where if you're too loud, it cuts off.
Maybe it's only particularly in places, if there is a noise abatement sort of order.
Yeah, I'm assuming it's not for domestic use. abuse. Although no. So yes, I am going to forgive because here's the thing: it's all about the pub manager. Pub manager should know what's going on in his sockets, and also why isn't Bob defending himself? I think Bob's hiding something, and for that reason,
what sort of thing do you think?
Yes, I think Bob's thinking. Well, if I say something here, then everyone's going to know about that other thing that I've done, and for that other thing, Bob, that has been curiously missed out of this story, I am not going to forgive.
We have another confession here, and this particular tale, which has been sent in from someone who we're calling Mars. Okay, you'll find out more details as we progress through tonight's tale. Thank you, Mars. Dear Father Simon and the Contradictory Collective, I recently listened to Andrew confess to lying to an innocent American waitress about water polo. If you remember this, he was I think some beer had been consumed, but it was all about convincing a waitress that horses were involved in water polo.
Rather worrying the number of people who then thought, yeah, I thought they were as well.
So we did a little explaining about water polo the next day. Anyway, this, says Mars, reminded me of my own misdemeanour some years ago. His tale of woe involves lying to American children, so I feel quite positive about my chances of forgiveness from Brother Matthew. The year is 1998, and it was my first summer break from university. I applied for a job of camp counsellor on a children's summer camp, which involved looking after scores of children, amusing them with activities such as creek hikes, campfire games, excuse me, and woodland crafts. So in the June of that year, I headed off to Pennsylvania for what was sure to be an exciting summer of American cliches. I had been assigned to an all-girls camp in the middle of the Pennsylvanian forest, where we slept in tents, with limited opportunity for entertainment and little chance of escape. We had one day off each week, but it hardly seemed to matter, as there were no distractions of any kind for hundreds of miles. This was not what I'd had in mind when I'd signed up for a 3-month working holiday. I was banking on a little more of the holiday and a little less of the working. Anyway, the girls at our camp were between the ages of 4 and 12. They spent between 1 to 3 weeks with us and often arrived with a trunk full of sweets.
4 is very young, isn't it?
It is just a little. Go on, off to camp.
Wow.
At the risk of gross generalising and resorting to lazy stereotypes, they were all called Brittany or Tiffany, and they were all brattish.
Yes.
Now, similar to Andrew's experience, the Brits amongst us were constantly asked lots of silly questions by parents and children alike, and our answers became more and more outrageous the more we realised how much we could get away with. Do you have TV in England? No, I'm hoping to take a set back with me to show my family. Do you have cars in England? No, we use a horse and carriage. Do you have to learn English before you come to America? Yes, I took a crash course in England, in English, before I came out here. That was the kind of thing. This gullibility is relevant. One of the camp rules was that staff didn't use their real names with the children, so we were each assigned nicknames. One of my British colleagues became Swiss because her initials spelt Alps. You can see the level of imagination required. I was called Mars. The real reason has to remain for another confession, but it does involve eating multiple chocolate bars of a particular type in one sitting. Anyway, the kids would love to guess the reason behind our names. Most of the time their logic was fairly cute. However, one 8-year-old child, let's call her Hannah Montana, decided I was Mars due to the craters all over my face and legs. Caused, I should say, by many insect bites and by my particularly nasty allergic reaction to them. This was the child who came with a trunk of sweets but refused to share, enjoyed scaring the other girls by claiming she'd seen skunks, snakes and spiders in their sleeping bags, and generally not doing as she was told, what she was told. If you tried to organise her into joining in an activity, forget it. If you needed her to do some chores, the comeback was endless. More of her in a minute. One of our regular tasks was to come up with a campfire stunt every Sunday to welcome new kids to camp. This would usually involve the staff dressing up in whatever we could find and doing a little comedy routine, a little dance, a song or a game to amuse our guests. This particular Sunday, actually it just occurred to me, I think Matt would make a great camp counsellor, entertaining the children for countless hours.
I have been at a summer camp.
Excellent.
Yeah.
We need to hear more about that.
Yeah.
Anyway, we had to do all this stuff to amuse our guests. This particular Sunday, my co-conspirator Frenchie and I decided on a rendition of a top hit by the Spice Girls, who were very popular at the time. Frenchie was tall, slim, and could definitely get away with being Sporty Spice. I had blonde or really red hair, a chubby face and a Union Jack flag, so could make part of a caricature of Ginger Spice. We practised our song and dance and hastily put together our outfits for the evening's campfire. Well, I have to say, Father Simon, I'm pleased to say that our rendition of Wannabe went down really, really well with the crowd. Afterwards, Hannah Montana came up to me and said, Mars... You notice I've stopped doing the accent just because it might be irritating. Mars, are you really a Spice Girl? Well, without pausing to think, I said, yes, I am. Wow, she said. Well, why are you at camp then? This was a good question. Jerry had indeed just left the Spice Girls. But what was I doing in Pennsylvania? Well, I said, I'm looking for my replacement in the band. And we want someone brand new. I'm secretly auditioning the girls at the camp. In fact, I shouldn't really be talking to you, but you're in the running. Well, it took a while for Hannah to pick her jaw off the floor. I told her that being in a group was all about sharing and helping your bandmates, and I hadn't really been overly impressed with her attitude thus far. Well, let me tell you, for the remaining 2 weeks of her time at camp, Hannah cherished her privileged information and exaggerated whenever she called me Mars. And I had a personal assistant for the fortnight. This was wonderful, as now I had someone who could do all my chores. Washing up, cleaning shoes, cleaning campfire, all that kind of stuff. Run errands for me and even sharing some of her sweets with her favourite new Spice Girl. So it's now 16 years later, it's time that I need forgiveness, not from Hannah, as she was a spoilt little madam, but obviously from Jerry Halliwell for using her name in vain, and maybe from all of Hannah's friends who enrolled in camp the following year, hoping to be discovered by an undercover pop star. Who'd have thought that Jerry Halliwell, after leaving the Spice Girls, would have gone and done some camp counselling? But she's a very nice woman, so maybe...
Well, I mean, she could have been. She could have been looking for some, some quiet time.
Time
away from the lights.
I quite like the sound of Hannah Montana. I think we'd have all got on very well, particularly Matt. I think he would have provided endless amounts of time. Not that he'd have got the gig in the first place. Anyway, what do you think, Sister Rebecca?
Well, it's a difficult one because I generally don't like stereotyping people.
Oh,
and I think there were lots of stereotypes in this confession, what with the Britneys and the Tiffanys and Americans being very gullible. On the other hand, this Hannah Montana girl did sound very annoying, and it is kind of hard to believe that she really thought that Mars was Jerry Halliwell. So I think she did deserve to be taken advantage of, and so I'm going to forgive you.
Impersonating famous people has become a regular thing, and we'd always welcome further confessions on that theme. American Camp, I'm not sure we've had many on that theme, but it sounds as though Matt might have a few.
Well, no, I did a summer camp in Spain, and we had to put on a show for them, or rather, we had to direct a show for the parents involving the kids, and I put forward, we do Smells Like Teen Spirit by Nirvana, and that got nowhere at all. We ended up doing Queen, We Will Rock You, and it wasn't very good, frankly.
If only they'd listened to you.
If only they had listened to me.
Yes.
Normally I'm all for lying to the kids, and particularly foreign kids, so normally I'd go for that, but not this time. And I'll tell you why, because Hannah is being lambasted for not sharing her chocolates. Well, they're her chocolates. She brought the chocolates, do what she likes with them. And she's lambasted for not doing chores. She's on camp. No one does chores on camp. So I'm not going to forgive. Not going to forgive.
You are or you're not?
Not going to forgive. Because I'm on Hannah's side.
Okay.
Yes.
Novice Nigel has joined us, says it's a Foodie Thursday, and he's already got some beer and some soft drinks on the table.
Yes, all ready.
Tonight's tale comes from Mr. Ed. Thank you, Mr. Ed. Dear Father Simon and the collective, recent confessions about school runs and the TA buttoning cars have stirred the deep recesses of my conscience, and I now feel compelled to send you my own sinful story. That was the TA story was the parent who made the child think that the TA button on the radio meant teacher alert, and the teachers, every teacher would know instantly about what you've been talking about in the car. Anyway, says Mr. Ed, many years ago, I was the IT department in a lovely boarding school. I did it all. I taught pupils, I trained my colleagues, and I maintained the gear. 99.9% of all jobs were fixed by turning the device off and on again. However, I would rarely let on that this was the basic solution and I'd solved the problem. I would always make something up, like when I fixed the projector in the main hall by tightening the light control diode. I turned it off and turned it on again. Or when I reset the primary proxy settings of the headmistress's PC, I turned it off and turned it on again. Or when I noticed that the common room TV had a problem with its electrostatic transmitter, I wiggled the aerial a bit, and then I turned it off and turned it back on again. I have no doubt that a few people knew that I was up to. But anyway, the end result was that I gained a cast-iron reputation as an IT genius and proceeded unquestioned and unchallenged in all my technical workings. It also brought me the benefit of the doubt on occasion, like the time I spent half an hour trying to replace the bulb in a fridge before one of the year fours pointed out that it actually wasn't plugged in. Anyway, I digress. On this particular day, I found myself with a brief moment of peace. I had a free period, and there were only a few sixth formers in the IT room sending emails, probably to each other. I was trying to track down a weird network fault. It was like unravelling a ball of string. One of those matted, knotted, complicated, tangled balls of string. You tease out various strands and just hope nothing breaks your concentration before you get to the end. I was about to make some progress when I heard a noise, which went something like this. Beep. 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 Anyway, it went like that. Oh, it was a very high-pitched noise, sorry. Beep! Beep! Full range of beep effects here.
Yeah, well done, yeah.
It was a beep. It was high-pitched. It was irritating. And I had absolutely no idea what it was, says Mr. Ed, the IT department. My first thought was that it was a child's mobile phone, and I glared around the room. Beep. It continued. No, it wasn't one of them. Oh, maybe it's my mobile phone. I furtively felt around in my pockets, and it wasn't me. Beep. Beep. It continued. Everyone could hear it. The sixth formers started looking around in that annoyed, bored, achingly cool way that they do. I played it cool. I didn't let on that I didn't have a clue what was going on. Beep, beep. It carried on, and it was driving everybody crazy. I realised it was coming from my office, the door to which was ajar. I gave up on the ball of string and went into my office. The servers lived in there, and I had a problem with them overheating recently, so I had installed a cheap thermometer. The thermometer display was indeed flashing. Here we are, I was getting to the heart of it. The batteries had run down, and with its last few electrons, it was beeping for help. So I'd worked out what the problem was. I took out the batteries, and the beeping stopped. I walked back out of my office and into the schoolroom, about to explain what had been causing the noise when a dormant, mischievous circuit in my head kicked into life. I glared at the sixth form students. Did one of you just write a bad word? Stunned silence. One brave student piped up, "What do you mean, sir?" "The bad word detector has just gone off, and it's gone off the charts. You could hear it in my office. Who was it?" Well, one student, amazingly, went bright red. I zeroed in on him. "What did you write, boy?" "I'm sorry, sir. I didn't write a bad word." "But what?" "Someone sent me an email with a joke and it had a bad word in it, and I forwarded the email." "Don't ever let that happen again," I bellowed. I had a red face by now and a threatening finger too. "Or else the bad word detector will go off again. All classrooms have them installed. 1 beep for a bad word, 3 beeps for a really unforgivable one. You have been warned. I'm going to let this go this time, but I'm very, very disappointed. I'm now going to have to reset the central filter hub socket control mechanism. It's going to take me all morning." With that, I staggered back into the office and started to reset the fictional bad word detector. I slammed the door and then collapsed into giggles. Anyway, it worked a treat, but I do now have to apologise to my students for persuading them they were living in some kind of Orwellian nightmare, because they did take it seriously. They did think that the school had been fitted with bad word detectors. Mind you, the language improved. I would ask the collective to offset my sin against the thought that the quality of emails from our sixth form students improved markedly from that moment on. Yes, it's teachers lying to their pupils again, but maybe in a good way, because it stops people forwarding nasty emails. What do you think, Rebecca?
It's like that futuristic movie. Has it got Sly Stallone in it, where there's a bad word detector? It's set in the future, and every time he swears, there's this massive beeping that goes off. Anyway,
or something.
Yeah. Something like that.
Yeah.
Sixth formers. They were sixth formers, right?
Sixth formers.
Pretty gullible, don't you think?
Very
for sixth
gullible,
formers,
yes.
But I think it was a very funny joke, and if it's going to stop them swearing, or using bad words. No, I think it was very funny, and the joke's on them, so you are forgiven.
You would think it's the kind of thing, it's just, it's a funny line, very good, we're all having a laugh, but they're absolutely hook, line and sinker. What do you think, Novice Nigel?
Well, I was really interesting when he saw I didn't actually write it, sir, and I thought it was going to be, I thought it. That'll do, that's enough.
Yes, that would
I'm
be,
on that one, yeah.
No, for that you want the bad word detector plus.
Yeah, with your threatening finger as
2.0.
well to go with it. You have been beeped. I just thought that was remarkable, and as you say, gullible sixth formers or what, but he should go down in folk legends, Mr. Ed. He should have his own TV station.
He
Talking
may
horse.
well do. Very good. Very good. Talking horse, that's what you do normally. Anyway, what do we have? Now we have Brother Matthew.
Yes, so the best kind of warning system is a faint beep in another room. No one's questioning that, are they? No one's saying, really, sir, that's how it's working? It's not going to be a big red flashing thing on my screen. It's just going to be a beep I can just about hear somewhere else. What is good about this is that it would have forced these students to do what we all have to do, which is just be very creative with our swear words. When we can't use naughty words, we use very creative words instead. So that's a good thing, so I'm going to say forgive them.
Well, they were this week's confessions, a fine array of terribleness. So we'd like to know, first of all, who did you forgive? And also, if that has inspired and nudged a confession of your own. Here's the email, confessions@bbc.co.uk. More in a week, and don't forget the Weekly Mayo, available to download now and every Friday.